Hello everybody, Nightcrawler here. Star Wars Squadrons is a game that I respect for its revival of the X-Wing style flight sim. While it is in some ways slightly simpler, in other ways it fluidly expands on aspects of the older franchise. For all the game's strengths though, its two multiplayer modes seem a bit repetitive. Even if dozens of playable ships were added to the game, the flow of the matches isn't going to change significantly from game to game. I'd like to propose a solution for this repetitiveness in a possible sequel or expansion to Star Wars Squadrons. Before I get into my proposed solution, I'd like to point out that a lot of this repetitiveness comes from symmetries between both sides of the conflict. The Raiders and CR-90s, Arquitins and Nebulan Bs, ISD-1s and MC-75s are roughly equivalent to each other in terms of combat effectiveness against both players and each other, and they're identically equivalent in terms of how they're used. All player ships are meant to be equally effective as all other ships in their roles. This is an important factor to not frustrating players, but it's worth noting that it does increase repetitiveness. Now onto my proposed solution. Operations. This concept is based on a game mode from X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter that was simply called Battles. Because an existing game mode in Star Wars Squadrons is already called Fleet Battles, a different name was needed. Engagements was a good option, but I think Operations is the best title for this mode. In X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter, battles were a series of 5 related missions that would be played in sequence. Although battles could be played with all players on one side, they were balanced and envisioned primarily so that there would be an even number of players on each team. You'd play on the side of the Rebels or the Imperials throughout the entire duration, going from one mission to the next regardless of who won or lost. Whichever team reached a set number of wins first was the winner. For gamers who have never played classic flight sim games, it may be important to tell you what I mean by missions. The easiest way would simply be to show you a briefing from an X-Wing series game, in this case, TIE Fighter.
A supply convoy has been detected heading into the area where we suspect the traitor Zarin is lurking. Protected by an old dreadnought, the convoy seems to be waiting for a rendezvous with Zarin's forces. Assault gunboat Group Tau has been sent to interrupt any cargo operations and hold the attention of enemy fighters. Missile boat Mu-1 will join assault gunboat Group Tau as quickly as possible. Together they will clear all enemy fighters. Mu-1 will then inspect the convoy and destroy the dreadnought with a heavy rocket attack. If the freighters are carrying any weapons or military supplies, they should be captured. If Zarin's forces show, Imperial-class Star Destroyer Courageous will join the battle to defeat them and oversee capture ops. All starfighter pilots will do their utmost to ensure the successful completion of this mission. A supply convoy has... You are to intercept a convoy detected in the area where former Admiral Zarin was last headed. Destroy all enemy combatants. Capture any freighters bearing useful military supplies. The Emperor has directed Grand Admiral Thrawn to locate Zarin and eliminate him. Zarin hopes to elude justice by escaping into the unknown regions. If he is successful, he will attempt...
The briefing shown here was relatively simple for a TIE Fighter mission, but it should get the point across. Games in the X-Wing series all came with dozens of missions, and fans quickly found ways to create their own custom missions. Making these missions isn't particularly expensive or time-consuming, but of course there is a great deal of skill in scripting them to be as engaging as possible. Unlike modern games, it wasn't expected for every single mission to have its own unique assets like space stations or spaceships. Instead, assets would be created for the game as a whole and reused as needed, reducing the developer workload per mission. Simply copying what was done in X-Wing vs. TIE Fighter isn't good enough though. I believe 5 back-to-back static missions wouldn't be engaging enough for repeated playthroughs. The solution to this is threefold. First, the missions will be branching instead of linear. The first mission of an operation will be the same every time. If the Rebels win, it branches upward in the tree toward a Rebel victory. If the Imperials win, it branches downward in the tree toward an Imperial victory. The results of the second mission will split into 3 possible missions. The result of the third mission will split into 4 possible outcomes, but while 2 of those outcomes are missions, the other 2 are early victories. These early victories occur when a single team wins all 3 of the first matches in an operation. Early victories exist to constrain the total number of matches that need to be created by the developers, to end unbalanced matchups before they can drag on for too long, to create additional drama by placing pressure on the losing team to make a comeback, and to reward very successful teams. As a result of the early victories from the third mission, the fourth mission only has 2 possible variations. Because of this, the outcome of the fourth mission splits into 3 missions. The fifth mission results in 4 possible outcomes, and all of them are endings. In total, an operation that lasts 5 missions has a total of 11 possible missions that can be found in its branching pathways. This may sound like a lot, but it's actually less than the number of missions in a single tour of duty from the original X-Wing game, of which there were 5 if you counted both expansions. The second way in which the operations game mode will be less static is that teams will have a degree of control over their fleets. At the start of an operation, each team will have an equal number of points to spend, as decided by an elected leader. The primary way these points are used is to build your fleet. In the operations game mode, teams do not have infinitely responding corvettes or fighters, but neither are they locked into having certain ships in their fleet. Instead of the standard configuration seen in a fleet battle, an Imperial team may instead choose to purchase an ISD-2, an escort carrier, 2 Carracks, a Lancer, and a single Raider, and still have some points left over. However, once these ships are destroyed, they're gone for the entire operation. One of these ships is chosen as a flagship, and it will only appear in missions that can result in an ending, such as Mission 5 or some of the Mission 3 variations. If one side runs out of fighters, respawn timers for players are lengthened, and helpful AI are removed. The player's fleet, including their fighters, do not affect morale, and are therefore only a positive thing for their team. Points left over after fleet creation, or earned during the operation, can be used in a variety of ways. For instance, depending on how the operation proceeds, you may have a chance to buy ships at a discount later on, expand the radius from a hyperspace point where your ships can spawn, use additional hyperspace points, give your fleet a bonus to certain attributes such as retreat speed or even fire rate, add in minefields, shield screens, debris fields, or asteroids at certain points on the map, buy over mercenaries to fight alongside you in the upcoming mission, or even call in reinforcements directly during a battle. In this way, even a mission that's been played before could be quite different the next time you play it. The third way the operations game mode will decrease repetitiveness is with random events that will affect future missions. During a mission, perhaps a pair of YT-1300s will try to make their way through the battle. In this example, they're smugglers, and if your team helps them or captures them, they'll give you hyperlane data that can be used to give you more optional ship spawn locations in a future battle. In another example, Black Sun fighters attack a merchant space dock. A team that successfully assists in the attack can use points later on to call in a squadron of Star Vipers to help them, or perhaps add Star Vipers to their fighter inventory. A team that successfully defends the merchant space dock, however, could gain the ability to purchase a Quasar Fire bulk cruiser at a discount, or allow your AI fighters to deploy buzz droid fields in a mission. Assisting or capturing a neutral freighter convoy might gain you a large number of points. While these are very tempting rewards, attempting to go for these objectives can put your primary mission objective at risk. The riskier a random event is, the more rewarding it will be. Perhaps if your team is already losing a mission, it becomes way more tempting to go for these bonus objectives after all. I've created the basic framework of an operation as an example. The New Republic has made a deal with Bunda the Hutt to mass within their borders for an attack on the nearby Cygnus Star Empire, a region of space housing the Empire Cygnus Space Works. The first mission takes place over Toydaria, where the Empire has a sensor array that has detected the rebel activity. The battle begins with a New Republic raid on the array. Let's say the Imperial team wins this battle. In retaliation, the Empire has decided to raid the droid works on Bunda's moon in the Cleva system. After another successful mission, the Empire seems like they can't be stopped, and go for a bold strike against the heart of the Hutts, the city world of Nal Hutta itself. Although the attack was so unexpected that the Hutts could not prepare a solid defense, the New Republic was able to pull out a victory at the end by bringing their own flagship directly into the battle. However, Bunda sees this as not a show of strength, but desperation, and decides to switch sides to the Imperials. Bunda lures the rebels with promises of Jiru and commando assistance, but it was a trap. Caught off guard, the Imperials pull off another victory, but Bunda has one more way to assist his new business partners. A secret hyperlane to Nimban, home of the Hutt's Horsch Kessel drive yards. In this final battle, The Imperial and Rebel flagships put it all on the line as the shipyard's defense patrols of Munificence and Recussance get ready for battle for the first time in decades. The combined strength of the Rebels and defense forces is just barely enough to eke out a victory here, but overall this operation is still a marginal strategic loss for the Rebels. Short in-game cutscenes can be made for each of the 6 possible endings. Since they're in-engine, they can change depending on the team's choices and actions throughout the operation. In this way, every operation also tells a unique story, which is key to the Star Wars experience. Since it lasts either 3 or 5 missions, it's a good way to spend an hour or so. And since each operation only has a total of 11 missions in the tree, the limiting factor is how many assets the developers wish to add for each one. In this case, I'd expect at least the Skik, Dune Lizard, and Kimogila, as well as perhaps the Chilendian or Nemphis. Well, there's a variety of potential Hutt ships that could be added, but don't necessarily need to be. I expect a Mandalore-based operation would probably be the most popular option, with Fang fighters, Colmerk transports, Star Vipers, Crusader corvettes, Keldabi battleships, etc. Despite its relative success, I have my doubts that Squadrons will ever get an expansion or sequel. But I wanted to put this video out there to show players that a game like Squadrons does not have to be repetitive, and that it can tell a story even with its multiplayer focus. Although I wish there were more alternate ships for each role, such as the Assault Gunboat as an Imperial Bomber, TIE Hunter as an Imperial Interceptor, or E-Wing as a New Republic Fighter, even I have to admit that adding them on their own will not do much to extend the longevity of this game. But I believe that this operations mode will do just that. I hope you've enjoyed this video, but either way, please let me know what you think in the comments. I almost never release videos, so subscribing or ringing the bell will be the most disappointing thing you do in a while. Thank you.